Well, let's speak to the former Taoiseach Bertie Ahern, former Irish Prime Minister, who is giving evidence today on the progress of EU negotiations, UK negotiations with the EU. And he joins us now from Westminster. Mr Ahern, thank you very much indeed for being with us. You are a veteran both of Anglo-Irish negotiations and of the EU. What's your assessment of where we actually are?
Well, I suppose the big worry, Adam, is that it's moving down to very near an end game. From an Irish perspective, we are happy with the withdrawal agreement as is. We know it's been voted down at Westminster, and what we've been doing and arguing that we don't want to see any amendments to it, we don't want to see it change. But if, as Jean-Claude Juncker said the other day to Theresa May, that they are prepared to look at issues in the future relationship that might be helpful, or to try and look in some imaginative ways to try to see that the backstop would never be necessary. Well, you know, there are grounds still to look at, and I would imagine that is what the British side are trying to do. But the difficulty is it's running very tight, and as much as that's a problem, I'd rather see it sorted out now than it drifting down to another extension, because that just prolongs the uncertainty. It prolongs, I think, us in Ireland not being able to get the institutions of the Good Friday Agreement up, and that's not something that's welcome to any of us.
Do you think that Britain's position for leaving the European Union, as laid out by the Prime Minister with her red lines, is actually compatible with upholding the earlier commitment to the Belfast Agreement?
Yes, I mean, the withdrawal agreement is the outcome of 2 years of negotiations. Every issue was looked at, every border in the world was looked at. They looked at every solution that they could conceivably think of. And in fairness to some of the EU negotiators and some of the UK negotiators are experienced people, and this was the best they could come up with. This is what they felt was livable with. Of course, we would have rather if it all never happened. That was our preferred position. But the compromise on top of compromise is what's in the withdrawal agreement. So from an Irish perspective, we believe that safeguards the institutions of the Good Friday Agreement, particularly the elements of the North-South institutions, because they're crucial to the whole agreement. They keep a frictionless border, they keep things as they presently are. And that's what 2 years' effort has been put into. Now, I am a realist. I know that the House of Commons voted against that by a huge majority. They did cite the backstop as being one of the main reasons for that. But, you know, I mean, our position has to hold as it's been for a long time now.
But the reality is that if Britain leaves the European Union in 44 days without an agreement, it won't be the UK that will put a hard border in place. It will actually be Ireland at the direction of the European Union, won't it?
Well, maybe not. I mean, everybody has said, of course, they won't put a border, but I think we all know that position would change. WTO rules will kick in for the UK. I don't think there will be probably any change in the short term, but ultimately you can't trade on WTO terms and have no tariffs. I mean, that's going to become a difficulty. So a no-deal solution is bad in every way, not just on the borders, bad economic-wise. It will affect the trade, 2 million crossings by goods vehicles every month go across the border. So it will change things in time, even if not immediately.
And conversely, if the backstop does come into force, it is the case that potentially Britain will be forced to belong to an institution it doesn't want to belong to indefinitely, again, by the will of the European Union. Isn't that true?
That is true, and I understand that point, and that's why I think, you know, the whole transition period hopefully will be long enough to be able to find alternative solutions. And the EU and Ireland have said many times, we have no desire to force the backstop on the UK at all. We would far prefer that the transition period was used to try and find an alternative solution. The idea of the UK having to stay forever in the EU if they formally left is not tenable. We accept that. But it must, in the future relationship, I mean, the reason that we can't find another solution now is because the future relationship doesn't become on the table until you finish the withdrawal agreement. But within the transition period, surely it's not rocket science to see that they'll come up with a better solution and that then we'll all be able to move on, because nobody in the island of Ireland, north or south, nationalists or unionists, wants to see a position where we disrupt trade, we disrupt business, we disrupt the ordinary movement of goods and services, and that's not in anybody's interest. And I can assure you, from all the meetings I've done, universities I've been in, places I've been, and nobody wants that situation.
But if, as you say, the European Union has no desire to force the backstop on the UK, why not just abandon it? Why not just drop it? Well,
straight away then we will end up with a border. No longer we'll have a frictionless position. It would definitely damage the whole north-south relationship, and that is not what is in the agreement of Good Friday, or in the multi-party agreement that the parties are in the agreement between the two governments. So, the reason the backstop was introduced was to keep a frictionless border, to keep all of the benefits of the last 20 years on play, and for that reason you just cannot remove the backstop.
Now, we've heard what Ollie Robbins has reportedly been saying in the conversation. What do you think yourself? Do you think there is a realistic option that the UK might leave the European Union in 44 days' time without an agreement?
I find it hard to even dream of that, Adam. I don't know how it will be avoided. I mean, I've watched the issues closely, and hopefully today I'll be able to hear the questions and try and answer them and hear the views of people as well. But I cannot see for the life of me what's in it for the UK to leave the European Union with no deal. The amount of disruption, the amount of problems, the amount of uncertainty, it would really be a calamity. And I can't answer the question how it will be avoided with so little time to go. But I do think, from all I've watched, that there seems to be a clear majority within Parliament to avoid a no deal. If that is the case, I'm sure they'll find a way.
And do you think it's possible still that Brexit might not happen or be delayed indefinitely?
I think the idea of Brexit not happening is probably faded. But I think the next option, if there's no deal by the 29th of March, will probably be a delay. Whether that delay is short or whether it's longer term, I don't know. But watching how the Prime Minister has managed things over the last period, I'd imagine she'd go for a short delay rather than a long one.
Bertie Ahern, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Former Irish Prime Minister Bertie Ahern, who's giving evidence to MPs today.